listening at all knows that Michael Jordan is retiring again from professional basketball.
I am here to announce my retirement from the game of basketball. I had my great reign in basketball. No matter what you guys say, or if I come and hang around the game,
They said his story ended with a perfect fadeaway, a jumper over Brian Russell, a sixth ring, arms in the air, the shot that sealed Chicago's final championship. That was the ending everyone accepted. The credits rolled, the music faded, and the legend of Michael Jordan was preserved in bronze. But what if the story didn't end there? What if greatness, once tasted, doesn't let go that easily? What if the real last dance didn't happen under the banners in Chicago, but in the shadows, older, slower, doubted, but still burning? Because the greatest ever didn't walk away quietly. He came back, and this time the stakes were different. The world had already witnessed the rise, fall, and rise again of Michael Jordan. From being cut in high school to dominating the league with 6 championships and countless moments of mythic proportion. The flu game, the shrug, the switch hands layup. Each tale carved his name deeper into basketball's Mount Olympus. But when he retired after the '98 finals, everyone assumed that was it. The king had left the court. The spotlight dimmed. The cameras packed up. Documentaries stopped rolling. But real legends, true immortals, don't get clean exits. There was one more chapter left, one almost no one talks about, one filled not with glory, but with grit. While the NBA moved on to a new era, new stars, new rivalries, Jordan kept his distance. He wasn't on the court, but he was never truly gone. Pickup games behind closed doors, whispers in locker rooms, rumors every offseason. Players who guarded him in scrimmages said he still had it, that cold-blooded edge. But when he took a front office job with the Washington Wizards in 2000, people thought he'd finally accepted the suit and tie role. He talked ownership, not championships, vision, not victories. But underneath it all, that fire smoldered. Watching the league shift to a new generation sparked something in him, a challenge, one that no one expected him to take. He was 38, retired twice, and yet something about watching Kobe, Iverson, Vince Carter, young lions claiming their place, pushed him to ask one brutal question: can I still do this? The world laughed it off. The legend was safe, the legacy intact. Why risk it all for a rebuilding franchise with no identity, no spotlight, no championship window? But that was the point. For Jordan, this wasn't about the trophies. This was about proving something deeper, to himself. That greatness isn't a moment in time. It's a habit, an addiction, a war you keep fighting long after others wave the white flag. So he trained in silence. While the world speculated, Jordan assembled quiet battles behind closed gym doors. Elite NBA players were invited for secret pickup games. MJ didn't say much. He just competed. He wanted to see if his body would break or respond. Could his footwork still create separation? Could his instincts still read defenses like a book? And more than anything, did the fire still roar when the game was on the line? He wasn't chasing highlight reels. He was chasing that feeling, the rush, the edge, the proof that he could still summon the storm. Then came the moment that shook the league. September 25th, 2001. The press conference no one thought would actually happen. Michael Jordan officially announced his return to the NBA, this time in a Wizards jersey. For some, it was blasphemy. The red and black was sacred. Anything else felt off. But Jordan wasn't chasing image anymore. This wasn't about legacy maintenance. This was about warfare. The idea that a man nearly 40 could come back after 3 years off and compete in the world's most athletic league wasn't just unheard of, it was madness. But that madness, that was fuel. Opening night, Madison Square Garden, October 30th, 2001. The buzz in the building was electric, not because the Wizards were contenders, they weren't, but because Jordan was back. In the world's most famous arena, under the brightest lights, basketball's ghost returned. His first shot came quickly, a soft jumper. Network. The crowd erupted, not for the bucket, but for the confirmation. He was real. The game ended in a narrow loss, but Jordan had delivered 19 points and moments of magic. More importantly, he had re-entered the arena. The battlefield was active again. The Wizards started slow. The team chemistry was shaky. The wins weren't coming. They dropped 9 of their first 11 games. Critics sharpened their knives. Was this a vanity project? Had MJ finally gone too far? But behind the scenes, something was happening. Jordan wasn't just trying to win games.
Just as I started to play against some of the players who played in the league, see if I could get some of my moves off, maintain some type of consistency to stay with them. Although I know this is not the same as...
The world tuned in. The Wizards, once irrelevant, became a mainstay on national TV. From 28th in attendance to sold-out arenas. Fans came not for playoff hopes, but for the chance to witness living history. And then something shifted. A double overtime win against Boston.
Season. I was looking for any kind of signs that would give me the motivation that, hey, if I get start working fitness-wise, I get myself in good shape.
But he was outsmarting,
I can make this thing work.
And out-clutching players half his age.
On October 30th, 2001,
Thought they'd seen it all, he detonated. December 29th, 2001, against the Hornets. Jordan dropped 51 points, at age 38, a record. 2 nights later, 46 against the Nets, back-to-back clinics. Coaches couldn't believe it. Defenders were embarrassed. And the world was speechless. He didn't just belong, he dominated. With footwork, timing, and a killer instinct that had only grown sharper with age. It wasn't just impressive, it was terrifying. The old lion still had fangs, and he was hunting. By the All-Star break, it wasn't a comeback, it was a resurrection. Michael Jordan, now 39, was averaging 25 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds per game. Only
like I tell people, Michael was fun. He had a unique personality. But then there was also another side where it was the talking trash Michael Jordan. And at times, me and a couple of the young guys would come up to him and say, hey, Mike, why don't you think about putting us in the Brand Jordan collection? And he'd look at me and say, hey, Rip, my sneakers for All-Star.
Sharpened by Jordan's demanding presence, Washington had transformed, not just in results, but in mentality. It was the Jordan effect. Excellence or exile. No middle ground. But fate doesn't care about comebacks. The last game before the All-Star break, disaster struck. A routine play turned tragic when Jordan collided with teammate Eaton Thomas. It was subtle, nothing catastrophic, but the diagnosis was crushing, a torn meniscus in his knee. Jordan tried to fight through it, taping it up, icing it, refusing to sit. But the Wizards dropped 9 of the next 10 games. His body was screaming. On February 27, 2002, Jordan finally relented. Surgery, rest. And just like that, the first season of his return ended not with a bang, but with...
When I was coaching in Washington, we played the Indiana Pacers, and we were down 25 at the end of the third quarter. And I took Michael out of the game, and I said, look, Michael, I know you think we can still win this game, but we got to play, you know, in 2 nights, and if we make a little run, I'll put you back in the game. Well, we did. Well, I found out that after the game was over, that he had 8 points in the game.
For the future or make one last push with their aging star? Jordan made it clear he wasn't done. He was coming back. The clock was ticking, and he wanted one more war. The 2002 offseason became a crossroads for Washington. They had a choice: develop youth or trade promise for experience. They chose the latter. Larry Hughes was brought in. More controversially, Rip Hamilton, the rising star groomed under Jordan's fire, was traded to Detroit for Jerry Stackhouse. Stackhouse was proven, a scoring machine who had averaged 29.8 points just a season earlier. But the move puzzled many. Why ship off the future for a win-now gamble on an aging legend? The message was clear. This wasn't about long-term vision. This was about the moment, the present, the final shot at making the playoffs with Jordan at the helm. Year 2 looked different from the jump. Jordan's knee wasn't fully recovered. He came off the bench to start the season, something unheard of in his career. The ultimate alpha accepting a 6th-man role? It shocked fans. But that's how much he wanted it. He wasn't chasing glory. He was chasing wins. Injuries rocked the roster early. The The team couldn't stay healthy. Eventually, Jordan returned to the starting lineup, dragging his team through inconsistency, missed opportunities, and frustration. But he showed up every night. In fact, he played all 82 games, averaged 37 minutes, at 40 years old. That wasn't just durability, it was obsession. And still, he delivered. He put up 20 points a game. He had 3 40-point games, more than most stars half his age. The Wizards hovered around .500, flirting with the 8th seed, never quite crossing the threshold. Jordan wasn't the same athlete he once was, but he remained the focal point of every scouting report. No longer floating through the air, he adapted, fadeaways, footwork, fundamentals. He adjusted to time without surrendering to it. And through it all, he carried a team that couldn't match his hunger. He wasn't chasing a ring anymore. He was chasing dignity, closure, and a final testament. Then came All-Star Weekend 2003. The atmosphere was electric. Atlanta buzzed with nostalgia. Everyone knew. This was it, the last All-Star appearance. Jordan was voted in as a reserve, but players lined up to give him their starting spots. Eventually, Vince Carter made the sacrifice. MJ stepped onto the floor, not just as a player, but as a monument. Fans cheered, legends saluted. And then, in true Jordan fashion, he delivered one final iconic moment. With the game tied in overtime, the ball came to him. The clock ticked. He rose. Fadeaway jumper. Network. The crowd exploded. It was poetry. But there were no fairy tales left. The West won in double overtime. Still, Jordan's shot was the memory, the symbol, the last time the world saw his airness in a moment that echoed with destiny. The game was only part of the tribute. At halftime, Mariah Carey performed a tear-soaked tribute in his honor, a perfect send-off. But even that couldn't capture the weight of it, because this wasn't just the end of a career. This was the sunset of an era. Jordan wasn't just the face of a generation. He was the generation, and now it was fading into twilight. April 16th, 2003, Philadelphia, the final game. The crowd knew it. Jordan knew it. There was no championship at stake, no finals glory on the line. Just a city, a jersey, and a man saying goodbye. He struggled that night. The shots didn't fall, the legs weren't there. He sat on the bench quietly as the game slipped away. But with minutes left, the crowd roared, "We want Mike!" He rose, walked to the scorer's table, subbed in. The whistle blew. He was fouled intentionally. 2 free throws, the final points of his career. No buzzer beater, no parade, just closure. And then the walk, off the court, down the tunnel, into the darkness. One final silhouette. For some, it wasn't enough. No rings in DC, no playoffs. Just a 40-year-old icon fighting the clock. But to see it that way is to miss the point. His return wasn't about winning. It was about proving something deeper. That fire doesn't age. That the heart of a lion still beats even after the world has moved on. His time in Washington wasn't a blemish. It was a revelation. The rarest thing in sports, a God willing to bleed. They called it a detour, a misstep, a chapter that shouldn't have been written. But Michael Jordan's time with the Washington Wizards was never about optics. It was about obsession, about a man refusing to let go of the game that built him, broke him, and made him immortal. Watching him jog in a Wizards jersey, no longer flying but still competing, felt jarring to many. But to Jordan, that jersey wasn't a costume. It was armor, a final stand. Proof that the fire inside him didn't vanish with the Bulls banners. It burned hotter, more defiant, refusing to be extinguished by age or legacy. Because what people forget is this. Very few athletes walk away on their own terms. Most are pushed, sidelined, or forgotten. But Jordan? He chose to return, chose to battle time, expectations, and the ghosts of his own perfection. And when he returned, he didn't chase stats. He chased confrontation. Confrontation with Father Time, with critics, with a league that had moved on. And for 2 years, he didn't just survive, he made the game his again, even if just for moments, even if just for quarters. There's something hauntingly beautiful about watching someone chase who they used to be. And in doing so, He stood toe-to-toe with three generations of basketball's best. He played against Magic and Bird. He dominated Barkley and Ewing, then returned to battle Iverson, Kobe, T-Mac. He didn't belong to one era. He was the bridge between them, a living monument who refused to sit still. And for every missed shot or slow step, there were bursts of brilliance. Nights where he dropped 40, shredded double teams, silenced entire arenas. Nights that reminded everyone that under the wrinkles and bruises still beat the heart of a killer. The same heart that broke Cleveland, crushed Utah, and ruled the 90s. The numbers don't lie. Over his 2 years in Washington, Jordan averaged over 20 points per game. He played more minutes than nearly anyone in the league. He carried a broken franchise into relevance, even if only briefly. He inspired a new generation not with dunks, but with durability, with willpower, with a refusal to accept the end. And that was the essence of Michael Jordan. Not just the man who won, but the man who refused to lose, who came back not to add to his resume, but to test his limits. The body faltered, the spirit never did. Every young star in those years, Kobe, Vince, T-Mac, grew up idolizing Jordan, and suddenly they found themselves across from him, competing against the ghost. And whether they beat him or not didn't matter. What mattered was that he was still there, still fighting, still talking trash, still pulling up with that mid-range dagger that haunted defenses for decades. And they saw in real time that greatness wasn't just about peak, it was about persistence. Jordan wasn't chasing immortality, he already had it. What he was chasing was peace. But peace doesn't come easy for men like him. Even now, years after his final game, you can sense it. He still wants to play, still watches with narrowed eyes, still critiques, calculates, imagines. Because the game wasn't a chapter in his life, it was his entire language. It was how he breathed, how he thought, how he lived. So when he stepped off the court that final time, he wasn't just walking away from the NBA, he was walking away from himself. And that's the kind of ending that doesn't come with parades or trophies, just silence. The world remembers the rings, the highlights, the celebrations. But those 2 years in Washington revealed something even more powerful, the human beneath the god. We saw him sweat, limp, struggle, bleed.